TelecomTV, where ICT connects.
Hello, this is TelecomTV. My name is Martin Warwick. We're here in Silicon Valley in Northern California in the US, where we are attending an ETSI meeting. To be specific, the fourth ETSI meeting of its Industry Standardization Group, that's ISG, on NFV, Network Function Virtualization. Quite a mouthful, but that's what it's all about. And this time I'm talking with Paul Obsitnik, who is Vice President Service Provider Marketing at Juniper. Paul, saw you a couple of weeks ago. Good to see you again. We're here at this ETSI meeting. NFV is pretty new on the agenda, but the ISG is even newer. In the last 9 months, it's become indispensable to the future of NFV. What's been achieved in the short time since its inception?
Well, I think the ISG is developing some very significant and very important breakthrough materials in terms of the standardization of NFV. As you said, it is a new technology, but it's really a continuing evolution of the programmability or the increased programmability of networks that Juniper has been focused on since our inception. And the ISG has been playing a critical role in coordinating the efforts of service providers and the vendor community to develop those standards so that we as a vendor can deliver products that are relevant to service providers, and service providers can take those products and jointly with us create the networks that are going to be more adaptable and more useful to end users.
And why is this work, the work of the ISG, so important for the industry in general, for sure, but for service providers specifically?
Well, I think with the networks today, we're seeing a very interesting state of development in the network where there is one huge demand for the network and what the network can offer. So fantastic news for service providers. But on the flip side is end users are looking for a much more dynamic, a much more robust environment to be able to create the applications that they can use and rapidly develop those applications as they think of them and as they come about. And so on the one hand, great demand for the network, but on the other hand, end users are requiring a very agile, fast-paced environment. And I think this is where the programmability of NFV comes in, is being able to create that environment where you can virtualize some of these services in the service provider network and be able to offer some of the applications on a much faster basis, a much more agile basis, at a lower cost to the service provider, so we can actually realize the demand or realize the aspirations of the end users to create those applications for their need, but do it in a way where the service provider can actually make money, can have a positive economic model. And with the ISG, what that does is it allows us as a vendor to collaboratively work with the service providers to be able to create the enablers of that network so they can deliver that to their end customers.
What kind of an impact do you think NFV is going to have on service provider business models? And when do you think the hype around the entire subject of NFV is going to die down a bit and become more realistic?
Well, I think reality comes apparent, but real work starts to happen. And I think we are at that point. You can see from some of the great discussions and conversations being had here at ISG, there is a lot of very valuable real work happening to make NFV a reality. And so that's the good news, because there has been a lot of hype around SDN, NFV, and it's natural. I think we're all susceptible to it, but then you need to actually deliver on what you're talking about, and that's what's happening here. And I think it is pretty exciting in terms of ISG being able to create an NFV that is a reality, that is going to have an impact on the networks, and is going to allow the service providers to create a more automated environment to control their OpEx, but also, and more importantly, create an environment where they can quickly deliver applications. There was just yesterday morning I read an article from Sprint and CenturyLink where they've come out and said NFV is not as much about cost as it is about revenue, new service generation, new service creation. And I think that's where we are, is laying the groundwork for those new services to be quickly created.
Now, we know Juniper Networks gets NFV. You've been involved in the technology since its inception. Looking forward, how do you think it's going to develop? What part will Juniper play? And what do you bring to the party that others either can't or don't?
Well, I think first and foremost, Juniper's been involved in making the network more programmable. From our inception, where we first started envisioning the separation of the data in the control plane, Juniper has been on the vanguard of making networks more programmable and more flexible. And so this has been a multi-year evolution, and I think you're seeing with NFV a continuation of that trend. And so I think, first and foremost, it very much fits in with the ethos of Juniper, our direction, our strategic intent on how do we add value to the service providers. So that's one. I think two, we have a very tight relationship with the major service providers out there today. And so working with them hand in hand to create the systems and the process to be able to evolve the network is critical. And third, I'd say fully understanding the customer's business. We have been working with service providers since our inception, and so we understand the challenges, but also the capabilities that service providers bring to the marketplace. And so understanding their business, understanding their challenges has allowed us to create some pretty exciting and pretty innovative products, all the way from some of the MX routers that we've created to the PTX switches to Contrail, which was announced earlier this year, which was a great innovation in SDN, and you'll see more coming out from Juniper around virtualization, SDN, and NFV.
Paul Obsitnik, thank you.
Thank you.
TelecomTV, where ICT connects.